It's Feb Ballinuary. I think that works.
What? I mean,
tried that whole intro. I was trying. Fast break February. I tried to get ChatGPT to give me some February basketball puns.
oh, okay.
The first one it came up with was Febu Ballin, which for is not great. Not great at all.
No.
Valentine's Day, love and basketball, comma, but mostly basketball. Fade away February, yes.
Fade away February would have been a lot better.
Yeah, crossover Cupid for, oh, come on. Roses are red, violets are blue. I dropped 30, and so did you.
Did you feel like January was the longest month of all time?
Yes, dude,
Bro,
it was crazy.
it just kept going. Like, we're recording this on Saturday morning. It's February 1st. I couldn't believe it was still all January last week. Like, usually, you hit the start of the new year. There's that little bit of lull at first, but it's like, the time flies. We're already in February. I didn't feel like that at all this month.
No, and I think a big part for me work-wise was everyone wanting to get back into the swing of things like so fast. Like work kind of ramps down for the holidays and all of a sudden it ramps back up. Everyone ramped up like the same week. And I was like, whoa, dude, you guys gotta chill. Like this is crazy amount of workload that's flying around right now. So yeah, I mean, we were killing it, but like, dude, yeah, definitely was like, we are finally out of the first month of 2025. Did not pass the vibe check at all in any way.
No. It was horrible. I feel like all around. We're all doing bad. Like, what was
it's not good.
Freezing cold in most of the country. Rest in peace to the 67 people who just died in a plane crash in Washington, D.C. And that's not even including the plane that went down in Northeast Philly last night that is 6 people confirmed dead already.
Dude,
like, that's on top of everything that's going on.
Everywhere else.
Read between the lines. I think everybody knows what I'm saying. I'm not going to get you in trouble, but I have some feelings about what's going on.
Yeah, man, it was a rough month. I saw before technically the year even started, someone was joking that 2025 started Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so it started as WTF, and I should have taken that as the actual omen of like this is not going to be a great month to start. Hopefully, that just set the bar real damn low, and the rest of the year is real chill and real calm.
No, I'm with you. I hope we all need it.
I
apologize right now because I feel like y'all hear me like swishing around a little bit. I've got a cough drop in. I'm coming off a cold. I had a cold on Thursday and Friday. I'm good, but if my voice is a little scratchy today,
it's your flu.
Shoot your boy some bail. Add it to the January malaise or whatever.
It's your flu game podcast. Okay,
it's not that desperate. I've been in worse shape recording this podcast. Not a long time, thankfully, but
same. So we before we get into everything, we're gonna go back through snub season. I know we called it that last episode, kind of, but we do have the full all-star teams out, so we can talk about some snubs. We'll talk about the teams. We'll go from there. Because I do think there's a few egregious mistakes potentially that we could talk about. But before we get into that, Adam Silver got a lot of people talking on the Dan Patrick show when he brought up the fact that he was intrigued by the notion of going to 10-minute quarters instead of 12, which is what it is. And the idea would be because people watching on television don't have the longest attention spans.
Yeah,
there was obviously a lot of blowback. People hate change in general, which is what I'll just lead off with. So I always approach things with a different mindset. I'm always down for change. So I immediately saw this and was easily like trying to discredit why everyone was hating on it. So I can come from that angle a little bit. It's at least worth mentioning Brian Windhorst came out saying this is not something that they are currently considering, but had a few fun reasons why he thought they might be considering it down the line, which I would agree. People's attention spans are hella short now. Like TikTok and all that stuff has made it even shorter.
That's not my problem. That's not the product's problem. Like,
but if you're trying to continuously grab viewership, like you do have to take that into consideration. Like how many long movies are coming out these days? I feel like every movie feels shorter now too.
Every Marvel movie is like 3 hours anymore.
Okay, that's different. That's superheroes. So if you're gonna have them dress in superhero capes, we might be okay.
No, I have I hate it. I hate every second of it, and it's not from it's just fixing something that's not broken. Like the
Sure.
NBA, if they want to complain about their ratings and they want to complain about their TV problem, it's because their marketing stinks. It's not because the game it has 12-minute quarters. Like you don't market your stars enough. You don't market big matchups enough, especially during the regular season. You don't like there is more talent in the NBA than ever before at any given time. I was reading the Bill Simmons trade value article that came out this week, right?
Mhm.
The Ringer. And he ran through the '07 Cavs roster that made the finals. It's hilarious now in hindsight when you look at like who their meaningful rotation players are. And it's not just the Cavs, it's from other great teams from those eras. That's just simply that there's more talent in the NBA than there's ever been before. Almost every team has somebody worth watching on it on any given night. And look, I understand where it's coming from. It's coming from MLB because they had so much success with the pitch clock.
Yep.
But it's a completely different scenario. Like MLB games are going 5+ hours at points. Like that was always the thing whenever the Yankees and the Red Sox play, right? Is they would have these just long, intense, and it would take all day long. I don't think that's happening with the NBA. Like if you want to complain maybe about the end of games, sure. And you can talk about the free throw shooting contest. Like I don't fully disagree there, but I don't think you fix any of the main problems when you do that. Like guys are still going to load manage. I still think stars are they're gonna play their big minutes. I don't think saving 8 minutes means they're gonna play more suddenly. Like I don't know. I don't get it. And I know, part of it he brought up was, talking about like conforming with the international game because like the Olympics are shorter and
Yep.
FIBA shorter. And he was talking about other Dan Patrick show how, the Olympic games only took about 2 hours each. And I get it, but I don't know. I don't think that solves the issues here. Like to me, it's a marketing problem, not a gameplay or not a game format problem.
Yeah, and I think if the game was just move like, and it's not that it doesn't move fast already, but if you're trying to make yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to make the NBA game shorter. I just think you need to find a way to make like quarter one and quarter two like matter more, if that makes sense. Because really, everyone's joke about the NBA is like it doesn't matter till the last 2 minutes of the game as long as the game's within like 10 points. Um, so like part of me feels like I don't know how you do that. Again, that would be a whole deeper thing. And Nuggets coach was calling them, we don't need to become Barnum and Bailey to just keep viewership. We don't have to do like a circus act to try to
Yeah.
get this going. And I agree with that. Now, if you're going to go the angle of the European League, try to get everything conformed so that you can create a European League or whatever that looks like, that intrigues me a little more than just trying to keep viewership up. And I think that is more of the actual conversation. I think Silver can throw out the nobody wants to listen. I think it comes down to, hey, if the NBA can also end up creating a European league, we need everybody to be on the same page here. And so that's where I could see it becoming more of a conversation. Now, I almost want to bring it to the TGL. I know you haven't been watching it, I assume.
The TGL?
Yes.
Was that is that the golf league?
Yes.
No, I have not been watching it.
I have
That is
been
correct.
I've been locked in, by the way, if you want to do a side podcast, the TGL podcast.
Well, I'll start watching.
We'd probably be the first people to do it.
We were the Chip and Putt podcast. At one point, we did players updates.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I do remember that 2014, man. That was when Ricky came back from like so far down.
It was cold-blooded, dude. They voted Ricky the most overrated golfer on tour, and he came out, won a 3-hole playoff and players, and took home the biggest pot of the year. Like that is that you want to talk about, like as the kids say, aura. That was coming through big time,
dude. And I remember because we all took individual players, and for whatever reason, I got him. And so I remember doing the updates for our news station and being like, yeah, he's tied for 8th, doing pretty good. Oh, cool, he got a birdie. He's tied for 5th, doing pretty good. Oh my god, he got another birdie. He
was flying.
Like, he's cooking this thing. It's crazy. If you haven't watched the TGL, I only bring it up because golf as a whole, I would say, and maybe you'd argue against me, might be the one that is in the biggest, we need to figure something out now. I want to say chaos or controversy because of Live and because of all these players getting a ton of money, but PGA needs to find a way to compete with that and blah, 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 blah. So Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy go out and start this idea of the TGL, and I've been watching it. It's fun. It's indoor, it's the digital like driving range per se where
Right.
they're doing things, but they have an interactive putting green that changes per hole so they can still do the putting part in the building. And now they've got like a stadium around them. So people are watching this and it comes off as gimmicky when you watch it. And that might have been because the first few times I watched it, it was a big like Tiger Woods thing. They were hyping him up. Back to your hype up the players thing. He came out to Eye of the Tiger. Like it was corny. But they also got absolutely blown out the first two games. So like that was weird. But then we watched the one the other night where it was Rory versus Tiger. It was Boston versus Jupiter. Like they have teams. And it was close until the very end, like missing a putt and pretty much lost them. Like it was close. And I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of entertaining when they're close. And I'm not saying basketball games aren't close. What the TGL does, I don't know how you take some of those replications to the NBA, but the openness to change, the openness to they have a shot clock now too. And actually Tiger Woods screwed up a putt because he took too long. And so they got a penalty. And like, the openness from golf, which had none of that. They moved it inside. Golf is an outside sports. This is now inside in a coliseum with fans being loud. They're playing music while they're putting. Could you imagine doing that on a golf course back in the day? So like this said, take everything you know about golf and flip it on its head. And I'm not saying the basketball needs to do that, but I think they can experiment and get ahead of certain things that maybe Adam Silver or the league is seeing that might be hurting viewership and test them out a little bit. But you also need everyone bought in on that notion. Like the coaches fighting back, the players fighting back. That's not going to do it because I think most people would hear the players fight back and they go, okay, well, no, we hate this idea too. Whereas golf was pretty unison being like, no, everybody hates live, at least from the PGA side. We need to figure out something that makes it better. So then they're doing like random Netflix Vegas competitions with staff. And then now they're doing the TGL and like they're experimenting. And I don't know if the TGL will have staying power. And I'm sure people will start having articles more about it in terms of like how other sports can try to duplicate that idea. But it's definitely, it was refreshing to see a sport, at least the golf side, that is usually so, I guess, close-minded in this is the way we've always done it. This is tradition. This is how we do it. And I agree, there is a place for that. But they finally were able to swallow the pride a little bit and be like, look, tradition and stuff, it's great. The world's changed. We got to change too.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I think with golf uniquely, I think you did a great job of summing it up. Like that is kind of in a more stale place, I think, than the NBA is.
Right, exactly, and that's not saying the NBA is stale, but I think you just maybe again, and it would be for business heads higher than myself or business minds higher than myself that would understand it more. Maybe you could take a few pages out of Tiger Woods and Rory's TGL to an approach for the NBA. Maybe it's the All-Star game. Maybe it starts with the All-Star game. And then
the All-Star, look, that's a completely different story. I'm with you on the All-Star game. All-Star game, you've been, and I mean, we'll have the new format this year, but like you've been had to shake the All-Star game up. That is completely broken at this point. I think everybody knows that. But like, I mean, my only other fear with shorter games is just, we talk about the star minutes. It's that it just decimates the end of those benches, right? Like those in between minutes, those 6, 7, 8 minutes a game, like that's where guys make their living off of, make their NBA careers off of. Like if you're shortening it to 40 minutes, yeah, there is a chance that somebody, like I'll use Giannis as the example. I should have used the Tibbs guy with the amount that the Knicks guys play, but like there's a chance that Giannis is playing a lot of these games every single minute.
I would say Knicks players are like, oh my God, yes, 10-minute course.
Yeah, no, actually, for real. Like Tibbs is really, and we're going to talk Knicks a little bit at some point in this podcast, I'm sure, but like, And they're winning. That's the thing, is like the Knicks are playing great basketball right now. Tibbs is really pushing it this year, man. Like, and Mikal Bridges, I get it. He does this whole Iron Man thing, but it's like you've got OG playing heavy minutes who's had an injury past. Josh Hart is playing crazy minutes. Towns is playing crazy minutes. Like, again, you're winning. And I think when you go to play with Tibbs what you sign up for a little bit, but like it is February. I'm like, Tibbs, Bridges don't got to play 45 minutes a game essentially every single night. Like, we can tone it down a little bit.
I would like to point out, Andrew, if you are listening, that was Kevin hating on the Knicks, and
I'm not
me.
hating. I just think it's more about they're going to burn themselves out. It feels like their rotations are it's shorter than it's been in the past. Because, like, I think in past years, that's been the lazy excuse with Tibbs. Is it's like, oh, here's Tibbs running his guys again. This year in particular, like, I got to pull this up. I want to see the minutes.
They were the top. We were talking minutes last week. Remember, they were like the top guys. Now, I think they had a game or two more than some people, so that was a big part of it, numbers wise. If you're looking at total,
and it's okay.
But yeah,
Mikal Bridges is playing 38 minutes a game right now. Josh Hart is playing 37. OG's playing 36. Brunson's playing 35. Towns is playing 34, right? Those are your top guys. It just, there's no one else really close after that. Like, you got Deuce McBride is playing 23 and Precious is playing 19, but it like really plummets. Like, they're heavy on those top 5 guys. That has been a successful formula. Like, it is working, and it's playing great basketball. It's just, I don't want to see them. Like, it's going to be a tough road to the finals. Like, I think this team has a shot to win the Eastern Conference this year. You know, I get it, but like, I'm trying to remember. I'm pulling up their schedule because I want to see. It was the game. There was a game the other night where they were up by like 20 points and they're playing late in the fourth, and it's just kind of like, what are we doing here?
While you're pulling that up, I just did the
math.
This
is a Memphis game. They beat Memphis 143 to 106, and they had their guys playing late in the fourth quarter. It wasn't a close game.
Like, why are we doing that? Yeah. The fun stat, and I know we kind of alluded to this last time. So Bridges leads the league in minutes total for the season at 1,841 through 48 games.
Right.
The next two are Josh Hart and OG, so we don't need to talk about them because that's also Knicks. That follows under the Thibs thing as well. The next after that is Anthony Edwards, right?
Yeah, I believe
Anthony Edwards, who has played 48 games as well, has 81 less minutes than Mikal Bridges. He has 1,760. And then if you were to go one more, that would be Jason Tatum, only at 1,671. So like Mikal Bridges has almost 2 like full games over the next closest in a way, which is wild. So there you go. That's my little Nick nugget. I just want to point out that was Kevin Rayfuse hating on it. So for the Twitter mentions, you guys can direct that to him. That was not me.
Look, I know Mikal is doing his Iron Man thing. Again, I get it. This is his thing, but like, just keep the rotations fresh. That's all. I want to see the Knicks play meaningful basketball.
But the only kind of contradiction to you hating on the 10-minute quarter and obviously losing out on the end of the bench guys is, maybe there's an argument to be made with less minutes from a player's star side of needing their rest and not playing as much or wear and tear on the body. Maybe shorter games kind of take some of that away.
Yeah.
So, again, I doubt it, but here we are.
It's there. Like, I get the reasoning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I just, and again, like we said, this is kind of a moot point because I don't think this has any real traction of happening right now. I just, again, to me, when I look around, I just think it's more of a marketing problem to me. I think the NBA, which is weird because they've been such a star power league, like, I think they're coasting off their legends right now. And like, those legends are not going to be here forever. Like, you can live still a little bit off LeBron and off Steph and off Kevin Durant, but like, it doesn't feel like the push is there again for a generation that has a lot of great players, for Jokic, for Giannis, for Luka, for, run down the list, for Jason Tatum, for Anthony Edwards. They have guys that they can market, and it just doesn't feel like they do enough. And part of that, I think, has been the devaluation of the regular season a little bit. Like, and maybe we're guilty of that as well, where it's like, the regular season doesn't matter for the first half. Like, we've said that how many times, but I don't know. I don't think, like, I don't think game flow is a problem. Or if game flow is a problem to me, worry about the end of the game. Like, don't worry about shortening the quarters. I just don't think that I don't want to cater to people's shorter attention spans, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I get that. I'm kind of with you where NBA was so quick to also adopt social media where other sports kind of seem to like try to shut it down at first. Remember when we were like, you see a dunk on Twitter all the time. It was great. But like football was kind of fighting it for a while. It felt like the NFL was kind of fighting like highlights being tweeted out and trying to protect their product without it getting out just by anybody tweeting a video. But we are so far past that at this point. Like, yeah, what's the next thing to adapt to? I don't know. I also kind of think, well, they have TV deals and stuff. I feel like streaming could be an angle that they consider a little bit more, like more access to niche games, right? Like kind of to what you were saying, where LeBron James is going to be on TV 48 times, 48 games, or whatever it was, 71 games. He's going to be on TV, and it kind of caters to that. Where like the smaller up and coming rising stars, like how many times do you think Cade's on TV? I don't know. It's definitely not as much as LeBron, so there is a little bit of that too.
For sure. And I mean, again, it's tough when you have a legacy act.
Right.
I bring up the legacy acts because the clip came across my timeline again, and I want to bring this up. Did you see KD and Gary Payton jawing each other last night?
No.
It was just hilarious because like Gary Payton's a notorious trash talker,
Yeah.
obviously a Hall of Famer. KD, notorious trash talker, going to be a future Hall of Famer. And so in the post game, they asked him, they were like, how do you think Gary Payton would guard you back in the day? And again, mind you, this is Gary Payton, a defensive player of the year. Like they call him a club for a reason. And he's best with KD goes, he would probably just foul me like his son does. Oh man, yo, I love that. We'll get into a little bit of trash talk later. Also, appreciation. Speaking of load management, back to back. So I'm going to tell you a story real quick because.
Well, oh wait, hold on. That kind of leads into this photo I just saw.
Okay.
It'll kind of talk. So again, we're going to talk a little bit of Jimmy Butler down the line too. I think Jimmy Butler's played 380 career games for the Heat. Probably going to end with 380. LeBron James played 381 games.
Oh, for the Heat.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. He was only there 4 years.
But how long has Jimmy been there and also is now at that number? That's more the alluding to. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, LeBron's health has been immaculate. I mean, really, he's never had that major season-ending injury. Like he's had a few, obviously banged him up, but there's never been that knock on wood, that ACL tear, that Achilles injury, that major one that slowed guys down. And I'm going to be like an unabashed, I'm going to put the LeBron hat on for a little bit, but I went to Sixers Lakers on Tuesday, and I'm not going to lie, my heart kind of dropped Monday because we had got these tickets a while ago, and I didn't look at the schedule, and I was like, oh my God, the Sixers, this is the second night of a back-to-back. They were playing in Charlotte the night before, and Bron played in Charlotte, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to sit. He's 40 years old. He hasn't sat since December 28th. LeBron James playing back-to-backs on the road at 40 years old, suited up against the Sixers. They got absolutely smoked, which is besides the point.
Yeah.
Bron was pretty good. And I mean, AD got hurt. AD left only 10 minutes into the game. I think LeBron had 29, 9, and 8.
Wow.
Turnovers were a little eh.
And
then the story post game ended up being a lot of Bronny talk. But it was that was some bucket list for me. Finally getting to see LeBron in person for all the NBA stuff we've done, but also just man, everybody's low managing. LeBron's out here playing back to backs at 40. You just got to respect it.
Yeah, so that number was a little off now that I'm looking at it. I'm not sure where they got. So I pulled up Basketball Reference to kind of check it. Jimmy Butler in 6 years with the Heat, 6 years with the Heat is at 316 games. Never playing more than, he did 64 in 22-23 and 60 in 23-24. So that would have been last year. So around 50 to 60 each season. LeBron for the Heat in 4 seasons was right around 300. And in those games was playing no less than over 70-ish games each time. So that's kind of wild though when you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's had a few of those injuries too.
Well, the injuries are a big part of it. Yeah.
I mean, and not again, Jimmy hasn't had the major one either necessarily, but it's definitely kept him out at points during the Miami tenure. I mean, look, obviously, it's not ending, I think, the way that anybody really wants it to, but like when all the dust settles and the feelings stop being hurt as much, I mean, yeah, you got to look at Jimmy. Jimmy's a jersey retirement candidate for me in Miami. I think when you look at what he's done there the past few years, the 2 finals runs, being such a singular force during those runs.
Will he be? Do you think he'll be more remembered? He did 6 years in Miami. He also has 6 years on the Bulls.
I think it's going to be Miami because he made the finals in
Yeah.
Miami. I think it comes down to that. Like, I mean, he broke out on the Bulls, and you're right. Like, I mean, post Derrick Rose, like he was the guy. He was when they transitioned, like he was leading them on runs as well. I just think, yeah, with going to the finals twice in Miami, I think that's where he's going to be associated with at the end of his career. Chicago a close second for sure, but I think Miami is what I associate him with the most.
We should go back and do a dive on his 2013, 2014, 2014, 2015 season. Because the minutes per game are exactly the same, but holy hell, everything pops up. Like everything looks like it clicked. He went from like a 39% field goal shooter to 46. His 3-pointer went from a 28% to a 37%. Free throw attempts like went up like 2, maybe 3 a game. Points went from 13 points to 20 points per game. Like it's wild. Like everything clicked that year. It's kind of cool to see that. And he played 2 less games, so interesting. Just a side observation while we got his stats up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was a moment where like Jimmy broke out. I mean, I know he had a few playoff runs because I honestly, you know what? You go back to that players that we were covering in 2014. I remember that was the Derrick Rose buzzer beater against the Cavs with LeBron when they went up 2-1. It for a brief second looked like they would knock LeBron off, which, you know, I think we all kind of know what that is eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely I mean, that was a fun era, and I think you know, it goes down to the winning in Miami again. Not to bring it back to that, but that's just where I find myself at. Welcome everybody to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Kuzart.
Cat is a full front on Joker. Even if you win the game, it doesn't matter. You will never hold the respect from an opponent to win at the highest level. Pride must make you sit down and guard, even if you give up 40. Winning is a mindset, and in order to win a championship, you have to tap into it.
This is a player?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think if they're retired or not. What is this like? This is not KG, is it?
No, this is a notorious hater on social media. He's very known for hating on people, and I believe he's hated on Cat in the past, specifically. But
I mean, it's. I'm thinking of. I mean, Shaq and Draymond are the two that come to mind as notorious. Oh, it's Draymond.
Right, yeah.
So why? Like the timing of this is really weird right now. Like, right? Yeah. Cat's having the best season of his career. Why? This is the year we don't respect him.
It comes out after, I believe it was last night's game. As of recording this, I think it was Friday night. The Knicks played the Nuggets, and so people are alluding to Draymond using this as criticism of Cat's defense on Jokic in that game. Now, it is worth mentioning the Knicks won 122 to 112. So here we go. Let's dive down the stats and see what Jokic scored. 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 17 points, which
that's a miracle with Jokic this year.
Which I'll argue is pretty pedestrian for Jokic.
Jokic is out here having like a 4th MVP season, basically. Yep. Like I think SGA is the betting front runner right now, but like to me, Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Like you could make the argument pretty convincingly that he should win it this year, especially because the team is just worse than it's been in past years, and yet he's still carrying them out here. Yeah, that's extremely weird, honestly. Like the timing on this is bizarre. Besides the fact that Cat's having the best season of his career and probably played pretty good defense against Jokic the other night, we just came off a season where we watched Minnesota beat Denver in the playoffs because they were the only ones who were kind of uniquely equipped to defend them. And like, look, I know Cat had a little bit of foul trouble that series, but like when he was like locked in and not getting into foul trouble, like Ant was willing him to, that's how they shut down Denver. I understand the lack of playoff success in the past. It's just the timing on this is really weird. Like if you're going to knock him for not getting it done at a certain point, it wouldn't come in the middle of the best season of his career, in my opinion. Like he could
Yeah.
very well change the narrative.
Yeah, I would go as far as say he's at least from that, and maybe we go back and we pull a bunch of games where Cat had to defend or would in theory defend Jokic and see what the numbers look like. But just off the two that have happened this season, yeah, he's holding him right around 19, 6, and 6. So like just from the stat side of it, that's significantly lower than what we see out of Jokic. And I don't even have to pull up his averages. Like I just know that's lower.
It's certainly
Um,
below them.
yeah, exactly. So it does come off a little weird that Draymond would do that. Some people were pointing out that he did that right before the Warriors game even tipped off too that night last night. So like that's another part of it.
Jokic is averaging 30, 12, and 10 this year.
That's like half.
Like,
Literally, he's cutting it in half.
yeah, I just don't get the timing here. Like, I don't get it at all. It's very, very
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah, bad look. Bad look for Draymond, although, he seems to like to be a hater anyway. Yeah, I don't that's not it. That's not the argument this year, I don't think, you know?
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that game you said against Phoenix last night where KD was trash talking, they ended up losing by 25. So it's tough. It's a weird change of pace for the Warriors right now. Obviously sitting right at 500,
God,
right in the cusp of playing. So
now that this has gotten so much traction, if the Knicks were to like flame out in the playoffs, God, Draymond's gonna be unbearable on social media blaming Cat.
yeah, I mean, but that's going to come back anyway if the Knicks flame out in the playoffs.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and there would maybe need to be a discussion if Cat is just truly horrible again in the playoffs. I
Mhm.
just I'm willing to find out. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's an underlying defensive, and there always was going to be a defensive thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I just don't think. To me, I don't know. That was the worry when you made the trade for me is when you brought Cat over. Is that would he be
Mhm.
able to be that main defensive guy because he doesn't have Rudy with him like he did
Yeah.
in Minnesota.
Mhm.
I don't know. So far, they've held up pretty well. So I'm not exactly, a lot of come and see come playoff time, but they're on track to be there. So you can't really knock what they're doing right now.
Yeah. So either way, that was Draymond's tweet.
Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And we are on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, search Drive and Dish NBA, and subscribe. You'll get notifications when the episodes are coming out. You can see the video versions there.
And now a word from our sponsors.
So let's dive into Snub season yet again for the All-Star teams, which are officially out. What is it, probably 2 weeks away? Maybe?
Yeah, it's
Valentine's
roughly
Day weekend, right? I think it's Valentine's Day weekend is
Yeah.
kind of the All-Star game. Off the top of my head.
Yeah, February 14th to 16th.
There we go. What was the pun? It was roses are red, violets are blue. I dropped 30 and so did you.
Yeah. Well, in the All-Star game, I think everybody can drop 30 the way it's been going.
That's fair. And it'll be a little different this year. So it is worth mentioning. I always love doing this first. I've kind of noticed myself doing this when I prep for the show, so we can go through this. Teams being represented in the full teams, not the starters. This is just off the blog that was talking about, because we talked starters last episode.
Right.
So there might be a little bit of overlap here, but teams being represented: Cleveland's got 3, Lakers got 2, OKC's got 2, Boston's got 2, Milwaukee's got 2, Knicks got 2. Those are the teams that have multiple selections. Golden State's got 1, Phoenix, Denver, Minnesota, Clippers, Memphis, Houston, San Antonio, Detroit, Indiana, and Miami all have 1. Any team not on that list kind of surprise you?
I mean, if it was at the beginning of the season, maybe. I mean, again, if you had told me at the beginning of the season that none of the Sixers' big 3 would have made it, I'd have been a little surprised.
Yep. No Sixers, no Orlando, which again,
Orlando's tough because the injuries, but you're right. Like you'd have thought, especially at the beginning of the year, that Paulo would be there at the bare minimum.
I don't. Did I say Pacers? The Pacers.
No, Pacers got Pascal.
Pascal's got Pascal. Yeah. Yep.
Everybody from the top 6 in the East is represented, including Indiana, including Detroit. Yep. Miami's at 7. They've got Tyler Hero in. So congrats to Tyler. He's had a pretty big bounce back here this year.
And then I'm trying to see if there's anybody who kind of sticks out. We said Memphis, Nuggets, Lakers. Did we say Lakers? We said Lakers. Yeah, Lakers got 2. Lakers having 2 is a little interesting, but that makes sense.
It's Bron and AD, bro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
the big story out west is probably the
Mav
first timers, right? Like, you know,
oh,
for a
that
guy
didn't we
Shingo.
didn't say Mavericks.
Oh yeah, the Mavericks. And again, that's only just because of the injuries, right? Like Luca not being an all-star is kind of just weird to see, but he hasn't really
So
played this year.
and I do have a stat line that we can dive into that actually because the first guy that'll most likely come up on our snubs list, LaMelo Ball might be one of them, and Luca and LaMelo have some stats that I'll point out, which would be wild to not have in the All-Star game. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a few like I'll let you break down the stats a little bit. You're right. I mean, we can start in the East. I think LaMelo is there. I think the other one. I mean, Trey Young is out here on Twitter saying it's not even getting snubbed anymore. It's getting trade.
Yep. Trey, Maxey, I think would also be on there. I know that's a little bit of Sixers homerism probably, but he's been having a phenomenal season regardless of how the Sixers have been playing. Your boy, if we go out west a little bit, if we go out west, I want to stay east, but if we go out west, Sabonis has another argument. That's
Bonus not being on the All Star team is the most egregious thing I've seen
yeah,
here. Period. Like that to me is like we debated last week that Sabonis should have been a starter. Sabonis not being in this All Star team is actually a travesty.
yeah. And Hallie not being on there's another one worth mentioning. Devin Booker, the other Sacramento King, De'Aaron Fox, who we will talk about in Ballin' and Fallen. Kyrie Irving and Luca, we referenced that with the Mavs. Again, Luca only has 22 games under his belt, but still. So I get that a little bit. And then a player that you and I might need to like sit back and be like, we have not talked about this person, and we probably owe a talking about for this person is Norman Powell on the Clippers.
Oh yeah, he's been great. He's
Might
been
be
like I said, one of the best years of his career.
right, but we never talk about him. And obviously Harden got in, but Norman didn't. And like, you know,
That
there's
is a big bounce back story for Harden. I mean, look, like you know
yeah,
what it was. Harden was kind of left for dead when he went to the Clippers, and he's having a phenomenal season late in his
yep,
career. I do think that's one of the bigger stories out west, definitely. And again, I say it all the time, man. Ty Lue is such a good coach, like just constantly get the best out of these guys, and,
yep,
and Norm Powell's a big part of that. Like I think there's a
yep.
reason that you know he's breaking out now. Shout out to Kevin Fippen on Twitter for this. 26 times in NBA history, a player's averaged 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists. 23 of those 26 times have resulted in an all-star nod. The other 3 times that haven't, all DeMontis Sabonis.
That's
Like,
so amazing.
I
Yeah,
just, I truly don't get. Like, I don't know. I'm struggling with it.
well,
I
and
mean,
because the and of course, leave it to Maxey to be the most professional, amazing, best basketball player that the Sixers should ever have ever in their entire life. Maybe AI some make arguments, but Tyrese Maxey's comment back when someone asked him about not being in it, he was like, "I'm friends with all these guys. I'm happy for them. I wouldn't want to take one of their spots." Because that is a part of it, right? Like if you're going to put them in, you kind of have to tell us who you're going to take out. And honestly, I mean, Wemby's having a year. I'd keep him in there, but like, is there somebody that you would replace with Sabonis?
Uh, yeah, it's either Şengün or Jaren Jackson. And I'm happy that Şengün's breaking out for
Yep.
sure. And I
Yep.
think it's been a phenomenal year for him. And I think Houston is obviously achieving here, but like his numbers are lower than Sabonis's.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Sabonis, when you count his points and rebounds and assists, he's 5th on the list, and everyone that's ahead of him is an
Well,
all-star starter.
and
Like he's
that's the same with Fox too. He was like 8th in the league for points per game or something like that, or points totals, I think it was. I mean, yeah, he's 8th in the league for points totals, only behind Cade, Brunson, Tatum, Jokic, Giannis, Ant, and SGA. Like he's above Donovan Mitchell. He's above Tyrese Maxey. He's above Tyler Hero. More points than Anthony Davis. Like more, yeah. So yeah, De'Aaron Jackson down there too. Yeah. So mm.
I think it's more Şengün than Jackson, I think. If we're doing the one straight up. And again, it's tough because the team has won more, but it's like Sabonis this season is averaging 20, almost 21 points, 14 and a half boards, and 6.6 assists. Like Şengün's averaging 19, 5, and 10. Like
Yeah.
it's not like again, it's minor differences, and his
Mhm.
team's been better. Like I think he's been one of the like he's been one at Şengün has been one of the more underrated players in the league now for me these last few years. But it's just I have a hard time grasping how Sabonis isn't an all-star this season.
And I bet you we chalk it up to the Kings being mediocre.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I do think that's what it comes
Because
down
that's
to.
not on him. That's not him doing it. So
Oh, right. It's like there's enough going on there right now. But congrats to Şengün. I mean, obviously, first time bid, that's super cool. Jalen Williams a first
because like
timer. Wemby's a first timer.
because like I read the stat that he's had he pulled down 20 boards on 6 separate games this year. I haven't heard that once on like ESPN stat lines hyping it up on social media. Like nobody talks about that. He had a 28 rebound game against the Boston Celtics
Yeah.
earlier this month. Did we see that anywhere on social media?
No.
I don't think so. I really don't.
No, I mean, we would expect it to be that way, but
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
just kind of is. Shout out to the coaches too. Kenny Atkinson,
yeah.
the coach for the East, obviously Cavs coach right now. Mark Daigneault, the OKC coach, is going to be coaching in the West. Not really big surprises there. Joe Mazzulla coached last year, so he can't coach again this year.
So I do want to bring up Luca and LaMelo, right? Obviously, a lot of the injury talk there, and not necessarily being able for the All-Star game. Ball is 4th in the NBA at 28.2 points per game. He has averages of 7.3 assists and 5.3 rebounds. And Don, I was about to say Luca's last name with that. Luca would be 5th in scoring at the pretty much same amount. The only thing he had more would be rebounds at 8.3. If they keep those averages until until the All-Star game, they would be the only 2 players in NBA history to have such numbers in the season and not make the All-Star game. Some people have mentioned that Adam Silver does have the ability to name injury replacements and think that that could be a possibility of how, he could nominate essentially these 2 to be in there somehow.
Yeah.
But that's egregious. That's a lot. And I get it. You gotta play games and they're trying to limit players sitting out and taking their rest, but dude, come on.
Yeah, it's that tough balance, right? I mean, it's the same thing with awards. It's how, you
Yep.
put the place in, but, wait, that's a financial impact, major financial impact, depending on how some of those
Yeah.
awards go.
And just because I try to keep it fair, it's like, fine, Cleveland's got 3. Take someone off Cleveland from being in the game. Let one from a team that's not even represented be in there, have a few more markets. Like, Cleveland's the only one that has 3. Now, I get it.
But that's not Cleveland's problem.
I get it. But then fine, I could still make the stat argument that Luca and Ball's stats are better, potentially, depending on who we're arguing about. And they should be in there.
Luca and LaMelo are different for me. Luca's missed a lot of time, man.
I agree.
And I'm with you because Luca is a top 3 probably player in the NBA to me. So it's
People wanna see
extremely
him, yeah.
weird to not have him, especially after they made the finals.
People
But
wanna
at
see him.
least with him, I've missed significant time. LaMelo's played a bunch.
And that's why, and maybe this happened. I didn't realize. Like, were we still able to vote for Luca, or was he not an option from a fan vote? Like that, I would wonder to see how many votes he would have pulled in if that stat's out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check. I mean,
I don't know. I
I
don't remember if we were able to or not because just disqualified. So I'd be curious, like if that was in there and he got significantly more votes, if you then just go, all right, well, they want to see him anyway.
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't know. That could be part of it. And obviously, like the Kyrie thing is, he's been stepping in for Luca and been playing well. Norman Powell's bounce back might be one of the best players, if not the best player on the Clippers.
Yeah, Norm has got a real good comeback player of the year argument for sure. I think he's going to be among the front runners there.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. So, I mean, other than that, like you said, the first time guys, that's exciting. Wemby being in there is exciting. And so, it's more the snubs that we get to talk about. That's the more fun conversation, I think. But
yeah,
All-Star game will be what it will be, and we'll see how it goes. Although
hopefully it doesn't stink.
Although I'll be waiting in line for 2 hours for my kid to go see Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, and then probably be scared of them because they're mascots. So you guys enjoy the All-Star game. I'm going to be at freaking Disney waiting in line to see mascots.
Godspeed, buddy. That's all I can say. Godspeed.
I came home the other day and my wife had her in a Minnie Mouse dress, this little like black top with a dress and it's like white polka dots all over it. I'm like, what the hell is this? She's like, I had to get her an outfit for Disney. I was like, we have a million articles of clothing for this kid upstairs. Why couldn't you pick from any of that? She's like, it had to be Disney theme. I was like, we have like 8 Minnie Mouse shirts. We need a new shirt for this. So either way, they're excited. So it'll be fun.
Baby's first Disney experience, man. You know how it goes. I am not going to rain on the parade. I have a controversial take about
You're going to be so worked up. Quinn is not even going to remember this. She's not old enough to remember this memory. This is so Nicole has a memory of taking her daughter. And again, luckily for us, Quinn's free until she's 3. So, like, she's free. Our tickets weren't. And by the way, staying at a resort is also expensive. And then, of course, we had to tack on the dinners, the mascot dinners, and the breakfast, which is another, it's a freaking buffet, which I didn't even think were allowed anymore because of COVID. Like, but I guess we're back. And so we're going to a buffet where the food's gonna be mid. The food's gonna be Paul George 76ers mid.
Oh
And
God,
and I'm paying $70 a head on this thing. Like, that's crazy.
yeah, I mean, you said what I was going to say for me. I was like, I don't want to rail parade, but I was like, you just said everything I need to say. I get it, and I am going to sound like a hater. I don't understand why you take your little children to Disney. I don't get it. They can't go on rides. They
They
don't
can go on
remember it.
Dumbo and they can go on the teacups. Although I can't go on the teacups, I'll puke. I'll throw up.
Teacups are bodying me, man.
I might be able to do the Dumbo ride if we're going up and down
No,
enough.
you're good on Dumbo. You'll be fine on Dumbo.
Dude,
I'm with you. I'm going on IR if I'm on the teacups, but
we went to the Jacksonville Zoo and I went on the carousel and that almost ended my day.
wow. Okay, maybe not that. Yeah, carousel's doing it.
Like, just going in a circle like that, though, to be fair, okay, it was a weird situation. I was facing backwards, so my back was going the way that the carousel was going. I was looking through my phone to record Quinn, who was then also going that way. So it was like in my brain, we were moving weird. Like, it was like 4 different directions were happening, although we were just going in a circle. Bro, when I tell you, I thought I was gonna puke. I thought those lines were going to see some unholy things happen on that sidewalk. Like, it was crazy. So I don't know. Either way, I'll be at Disney. Remember me.
Yeah, I will. Godspeed, my brother. All right, who's balling? Who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like start with the good before the bad. So, Justin, I'll start with you this week. Who is balling?
All right, balling for me is gonna go to Clutch Sports because there was a report that came out this last week that the Sacramento Kings were open to talking and potentially dealing De'Aaron Fox, who we've talked about already. Currently is eighth on the list for total points this season. And the reason is, well, obviously the Kings aren't that good, but the kind of behind the scenes reason from Clutch Sports and all them is more that they want to put it out there that teams should consider waiting potentially on De'Aaron Fox this summer because he'll be available potentially, and not go for Jimmy Butler in a way, because if you go for Jimmy Butler and you pay him or you got to pay him and whatnot, you won't have the money for a De'Aaron Fox who is significantly younger. So, like, it was like a 3-part playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers kind of move from Clutch Sports. And it leads to a bigger discussion of players who want out used to be and still are kind of forcing their way out, kind of the way Jimmy Butler's working on it right now. But because the contracts are getting so high and so expensive, the market that is available for these players is getting a lot less. And so Clutch Sports puts this out saying, like, look, if you go get Jimmy, you're probably not going to be able to get De'Aaron Fox either right now in the trade market or in the offseason when you can pay him.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a different market, though, in a way. I get the messaging, and I mean, that's going to be the big. I mean, whether this deal gets done or not is going to depend on like who's willing to give up what. And it seems like the Kings want this massive like Donovan Mitchell type return, right? Which I can completely understand. Like,
Yeah,
if you're going to pull the trigger on moving De'Aaron Fox, you're basically capitulating and saying that, hey, this team isn't going to win anything this year. You know, we're moving our guy. We're almost resetting a little bit. We're going into rebuild mode.
and I think a team that has a bunch of picks, or a team like the Spurs, would be an interesting team that could look into that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, the Spurs are the natural pick if that's out there. I mean, they have the picks to get it done. Again, it would be
Right.
more of a look to the future for the Kings moving
Which is
forward. It's not
yeah,
a win now, which, that may be tough to sell to a few Kings fans, but I think that that's probably like if
the
you're
beam
going strictly off war chest, they
yeah.
probably have the best straight up
The
offer.
the
I mean,
beam
maybe
team
see the
would be
Lakers get in
very
the mix.
low. Well, that'd be
Wait,
it.
say it again?
I said the beam team morale and probably the light on the beam would be a little dim at that point.
For sure. I mean, you're taking a step back if you're moving De'Aaron Fox. I mean,
Mhm.
there are other teams that have been involved. Like you've heard the Heat a little bit. You've heard the Lakers. The Lakers say they're not going to move Austin Reeves, and it feels like if Austin Reeves isn't in that deal, then that's dead on arrival. Miami, they're not going to move Jimmy to Sacramento, and so it's kind of like, what else do you really have that you're going to be able to go get De'Aaron Fox with?
I
Um,
and again, and so I almost go back to I don't think he'll move. I think this is Clutch Sports getting ahead of the off season this season, saying, "Look, if you go get Jimmy and you got to pay him, you're not going to have enough for a De'Aaron Fox, who will be available." And there was a GM who I think the article CBS Sports put this out said was a former GM. They didn't really name who it was. It just said it's simple supply and demand. There are just as many players out there who are going to want to move this offseason with big contracts, but the new CBA means there's going to be a lot less possible buyers out there. So these players saying, I want to get moved, I want to get moved, they don't understand or haven't accepted yet that because of this hard cap and the consequences of that, the player movement's going to be limited now. So this is Clutch Sports saying, hey, you can make a move this season if you're like in a win now team, if you're whoever, and you think adding Jimmy Butler to your team is going to win it. Instead of taking that risk on a one season, why don't you wait till the off season, pay De'Aaron Fox, and now you've got a guy who's, I think he's 27. You got a guy who's 27 on your team, and you guys have a few more years than you would with Jimmy potentially because he's older.
right.
That's the between the line stuff that I think is being said without being said. And so that's why it's balling for me from Clutch Sports side of things. Just even if it's like a leaked, hey, they're potentially looking, or hey, De'Aaron Fox wants to be traded, it's putting out the notion of, hey, just let this season sit and come talk to us in the offseason.
Yeah, and I mean, there is definitely a chance he doesn't get moved. Like I'm right
I
there
don't
with you
think
because
it does. Yeah.
it's such a massive haul. Because you're right, like De'Aaron Fox doesn't have a new deal in place. Like if you're gonna make this move, you are going to, especially if you're giving up that much. Like you better hope De'Aaron Fox is coming back.
You
Like,
gotta pay him. Yep.
and maybe there is a rental market, and that develops late. Like I think with Jimmy, it is kind of known that it's a rental market almost.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. You're right though. I think maybe there's a chance you wait till the off season when things develop a little bit more, obviously, than when you would sign that new
I think
contract.
it happens. If I put my money on it, it's a wait till the off season. Again, there's still when's the trade deadline? We're like a week, I think,
Yeah,
or
a little bit.
so. I'd be surprised if he moves. I wouldn't put it past it, but I think it's a telling teams, look, you got 1 week to just hold on, get past the trade deadline, and we'll talk to you in the summer. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what it was. And it's like, look, just don't go get Jimmy. Just don't go
Well,
get him, and
and
we'll
look,
talk to you.
the leverage has changed a little bit on some of these. Like we've seen it swing back a sec. Like,
Mhm.
you think about the Dame Lillard situation and how blatantly he wanted to go to Miami and then they held and said, hey, no, actually,
Yeah,
you're going to Milwaukee instead. You see even with bigger guys on the names or like bigger guys on the market, these not move necessarily. You look back at Brandon Ingram, you look back at Zach LaVine, those like home run franchise changing deals may not be out there right this second. And I
yeah,
think teams have probably intelligently begun to realize that, look, if we're going to move everything, it better be for somebody that's going to win us a title. De'Aaron Fox is great, but am I going to move my whole franchise to get De'Aaron Fox to
no,
go over the top? Like, I don't
no,
know if there's a situation out there that puts somebody over the top. Like the only one where I can
mhm,
maybe get a little interesting, and it's like, hey, is that who you push your chips in for? And it could be the same deal with Jimmy, is Houston.
yep,
Houston is playing great ball right
I
now.
agree. I
And
just
I
don't
think
know
that's
if De'Aaron Fox fits like if Houston needs a De'Aaron Fox, if that
maybe
makes
it's the timeline.
Yeah, and I know even a little bit of timeline wise for the Spurs, like I selfishly want the Spurs to get that kind of like point guard, like a De'Aaron Fox. I know they have oh my gosh.
Chris Paul.
Yeah, Chris Paul. I was like, I know they have Chris Paul right now, but again, he's way older. Bring in a De'Aaron Fox, and like now you've got the Wemby Fox kind of duo. And I'd rather that so that the Maxi stuff could stop being a rumor that floats around every so often. But I just think that would be that's the move in my head. But I think if you're the Spurs, you just wait. You don't need to do that now. Just go get them in the offseason and figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, you're not really right. You're not in a rush. I think with Houston too, like just the
I think
reality
the
is like
only
what the breakout of Amen
yeah,
Thompson too, I think
yeah,
makes you a lot more hesitant to make any like
yeah,
they're winning right now. They're
right.
winning games. Like, do you want to break that chemistry up if you're not in the first year of it being
Yeah.
successful? Like maybe you just
I
kind of see
think
what you got first.
and back to the Spurs thing, I think the only thing that would make you move fast is if you really think there's someone else out there that's going to go get De'Aaron Fox before the trade deadline. That's the only thing that makes you kind of move a little quicker.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So again, that's just a if you want to read the article, CBS Sports, it's a good one. And it's all based around the CBA and essentially what this new I guess NBA player world's going to look like with who has the power to try to get themselves moved.
Yeah. No, 100%. All
So,
right, balling for me this week is Cade Cunningham, who obviously fresh off his first All-Star appearance last night against the Mavericks, mind you, a pretty impressive Mavericks team, 40 points, 6 rebounds. Is in 3 of the last 4 he's had 30 plus. But those 3 were losses, so it was good that this actually came in a win. But this has kind of been again, Cade, a number 1 pick, has just had, I think last year was saddled on one of the worst basketball teams of all time. And it's pretty remarkable how quickly they've, changed the culture a little bit, how, he suddenly looks like the centerpiece and how Detroit's just playing fun basketball. They're definitely trending in the right direction. Obviously, one of the overachievers of the year so far with them being in playoff position at 6 currently.
yeah, no, and that's kind of I think what was it we talked about it last season, a few episodes ago of things we think that they should do in terms of players they could potentially bring in. But yeah, they're cooking and Cade getting the nod, deservingly so.
Yeah. All right. Who is falling for you this week?
Falling for me, we go back to the Pelicans. It's a tale as old as time. It feels like at this point, at least for this season, we've got injuries again. Murray went down last night with a torn Achilles. It was like a non-contact injury. It looked bad, but the injury bug, man, has bitten the Pelicans so hard. And this is Murray's second injury, really, that we've been talking about. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, he had the broken hand, and now the Achilles, which is obviously going to pull him out for the season. And just like the worst of the worst injury wise for the Pelicans this year. I mean, you've got Brandon Ingram missing 21 games and counting. He's got the sprained ankle. You got Zion out. He was out for like 2 months with a hamstring. You had Murray out at the beginning. I think CJ McCollum was out at the beginning at one point, and now Murray's out again with Achilles tendon. It's just like, dang, guys, they can't catch a break.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this is extremely unfortunate for DeJounte Murray, who just was snake bitten at the beginning of the year. The first
Yeah,
game of the season, he breaks his hand and goes out and misses time. He's finally been back here a little
yeah.
bit. But yeah, I mean, certainly not the way that he wanted this to go. I mean, he's been again back playing since he got back in the lineup on November 27th, and he's been pretty good for them. Like again, you finally start to get a little bit of momentum here going. You got Zion playing again. You've got CJ McCollum back. Like it's just not the hey, we're signing emergency players who haven't played in the NBA in 3 years because 8 of our, or 8 or 9 of our top guys are hurt. And
Mm-hmm.
for Murray, again, this is a signing that I thought made a lot of sense for the Pelicans. Like they needed that guy to close these games. And, you're just not going to get in there now. And it's unfortunate. I mean, it was besides the fact that it was a close game last night to Boston, Tatum hitting the buzzer beater, you could tell right off the rip. Like it was, he went for the rebound, he went to cut, and he just like there was no weight on it. He immediately grabbed the back of his calf, and you just go, oh, man, you hope it, you pray it's not Achilles. Before I even went to bed, it's a confirmed Achilles. He's done. And so obviously the unfortunate part too here is that it's probably going to bleed into next year a little bit. And for a guy like DeJounte Murray, who is kind of in the prime of his career right now, like he's 28 years old, you know, Achilles is tough to recover from. Like, that's been the one that we've seen sink a lot of guys' careers. Hopefully DeJounte is able to get back on track here a little bit.
Mhm.
Just a tough year for the Pels, but a tough year for him too as well.
Yeah, yeah, and just super bummer, so.
Yeah. All right. Fallen for me this week is I mean, I almost made this ball a little bit just for the drama, but the Chris Paul and Giannis rivalry. Of course, the Bucks and the Spurs playing last night. Little bit of a chippy foul by Chris on Giannis. Giannis didn't love it.
Yeah.
And so they ended up, kind of jawing back and forth a little bit after the game. Giannis in the post game was like, he said enough is enough, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, the Bucks were down 20 points. Went towards the basket. Chris Paul, kind of shoved him a little bit, to put it
Mhm.
bluntly.
Mhm.
Chris Paul's always been a sneaky toe the line guy. But I think this is probably the reason it's a more sneaky rivalry because we got a little bit of like 2021 finals blood not lost there a little bit. Obviously Giannis's Bucks taking out Chris Paul's Suns at the time. And I mean, that's been the big thing. Chris Paul still doesn't have a championship. That's the one thing it's lacking. And
Mhm.
so I think a little chippy. We kind of need some of that in the NBA a little bit, but
Add
definitely
add
no
the
love lost
add the
between
fight
these
back
two.
in. Add the fight back in a little bit, get the blood pumping.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I kind of I'm not gonna lie, I like this transcended franchises a little bit like Chris Paul, and I get it. Like, man, he's heard about this. Like, they know what it was. They were up 2-0. Yeah, just pretty unfortunate. But
Mhm.
all right, shall we play some Immaculate Grid?
Sure, I just pulled it up. I think I've got almost an answer on 3 of the team connections here.
All right, well, let's run it. I mean, we're gonna because it's already good, honestly, because we're at an hour anyway, so we can kind of make this a
Mhm.
quicker one. And again, you can always watch the Immaculate Grids on YouTube. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast. If you are not, or if you are a podcast listener, excuse me, I should say, our columns this week from left to right are the Pacers, the Bucks, and All Star. Our rows from top to bottom are the Sixers, the Trailblazers, and 20 points a game per season. So,
Okay,
uh, yeah, a lot of options here, Just.
okay. You ready? You ready
Yep.
for this? Sixers, Pacers, TJ McConnell.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the obvious. I think that's may very well be the top answer,
It might
honestly.
be. It might be. We can come back to that one though. Pacers, Trailblazers, Evan Turner.
Evan Turner lower the one there. I was gonna say Evan Turner low key works for Sixers and
Yeah.
Pacers as well.
Yeah.
Our boy Thad Young works for Sixers and Pacers
Yep.
too.
Yep.
Evan Turner is gonna be really low for Pacers Blazers, so I'm
You
down
want
with
to go
that
Evan
right off the
Turner?
rip. Yeah, he's gonna be. No one associates him with either of those teams. I think
4% is actually a little higher than I thought it was gonna
weirdly higher than I thought it was gonna be for sure.
Bucks, 76ers, Ersan Ilyasova.
Yes, recent trade. I mean, there's a few. Michael Carter Williams
Michael
works.
Carter Williams.
If
I
you want to go old
I
school with it, Glenn Robinson, the big dog, works.
I think Greg Monroe works.
Greg Monroe works. He does.
Who else? I had one more. Oh, PJ Tucker,
Yep.
Drew Holiday,
Yep.
Patrick Beverly. It's like,
Wow. Jeez,
yeah,
man.
just rattle them off. Whoever you think's going to be the least.
He doesn't work because he never played for us, and it's unfortunate because we bought him out right away. But if he had played one game for us, Danny Granger would have worked for Sixers
Oh,
Pacers,
Granger would
but
be good.
no dice.
Tobias Harris
Works
also
for Bucks and
works.
Sixers. He does. Yep,
Yeah,
he played for the Bucks.
yeah. I think Ursan's probably. Well, it was more recent though.
I, so like my inclination
Greg
here, because
Monroe,
all these
maybe.
are kind of recent, is to go Boomer. I kind of want to go Glenn Robinson.
Glenn, I'm
Yeah,
down.
GLENN.
Oh, 2 N's. Robbie. There we go. Right?
Yeah,
That's a
the big
yeah.
dog.
Glenn, not the third. Glenn Robinson.
No. Yes, the OG Glenn Robinson.
Yeah, there you go. 3%. Good call.
Nice. Yeah, he was on the I mean, he was on the Bucks team that they played against Sixers in the conference final. Like it was him and Ray Allen and Sam
Yeah.
Cassell were the big three on that team.
Yep. So Bucks, Trailblazers, which obviously is Dame, but Wes Matthews works as well.
He does. The Dame is the obvious one. Wes Matthews works. Malcolm Brogdon works.
Oh, Malcolm Brogdon's a good one.
He was on the other side of that. What was I-
Didn't. Ooh. Why do I? Because wasn't he the Heat? And then he went to the Trailblazers and then the Bucks. But he had to leave the Heat because he said something bad on a streaming service.
Oh, Myers Leonard?
Yes. Did he? He's on both, right?
I think.
Ooh.
Well,
I know he went to the Trailblazers after the Heat because of the controversy.
Myers Leonard, he did. He had that anti-Semitic slur. So
Yeah,
random.
dude. Like, what is going on?
You can do Myers Leonard there. I don't think he's gonna be popular.
Leonard
Leonard.
Leonard. Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
Myers
third
Leonard.
one
I
down.
think that's right. Oh my
Yeah,
god. Okay.
100%.
Oh,
Nice. Yeah, he
so,
definitely played for he played for the Blazers for the longest time. Like that's where he
yeah,
associated his career with. I think he was on the
yeah,
Bucks when that just came out. It was such the most random slur of all time. It was like, Myers,
yeah.
what are you doing, dude?
Why would you say that? Like,
Yeah.
what? Okay, so then we need to get a little deeper on our Pacers 76ers.
So who we got besides TJ and Thad Young?
TJ, Thad Young, Evan Turner, but we can't use. Ooh. We've definitely done more trades with them though.
Yeah, I feel like there have been.
No, not Corver. Corver doesn't work. Corver would have worked Sixers Bucks.
Oh, George Hill works.
George Hill works. Is there anybody else that ended up on the Pacers? What about the Lance Stevenson years? Was there any of those guys that ended up with us?
I don't think so. Oh, Paul George.
Oh,
yeah, Paul George. Actually, you're right. The best player on the team works.
yeah. Oops.
That might be the number one answer there. You're right. That actually might be higher than TJ McConnell.
Well, at least, yeah, that's definitely going to be higher than TJ McConnell. I want to go TJ McConnell just because I like him so much.
You can put TJ there. It's gonna be high. I don't care. But
yeah,
put TJ there.
How's he? MCC.
Yeah.
There he is. Okay. McConnell, 25%. Yep.
PG's gonna be the only one that's higher there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. So 20 points per game. Can we go any niche guys? There's no way Lance Stevenson was at 20 points per game, but who was with him other than Paul George?
No, was it 20 points a game that we just mentioned though? Danny Granger.
Oh, Granger's a good one.
Danny Granger was definitely scoring 20 with Indy.
Do you think Oladipo was doing it?
Yeah, Oladipo, his best season of his career over there.
Do you think that would be higher than Danny Granger?
Yeah, because I think Oladipo was really good that year.
Yeah. Okay. Granger it is. 9%. Let's go.
20 points per game. I'll tell you what, you want to do 20 points a game for All-Star. You want to do Victor Oladipo there?
Oh, that'd be a good one.
I think Oladipo is going to be stupid low for 20 points a game in All-Star.
OLIA.
OLA.
There he is. Victor Oladipo at 0.07.
Let's go. Yeah. I mean, he didn't get more than 20 that often, and I don't think he was an all-star.
Yeah.
Other than the Indy year, 2 all-star appearances for Oladipo. He had the 2 years in Indy in 2017 and 18 and 2018-19.
So some one-offs for the 76ers all-star. Like, I think Ben Simmons would be an interesting one.
Yeah, Ben Simmons.
Did Michael Carter Williams get all-star?
I don't know. He might have because he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
God, I don't think he got all-star that year, though.
And then was there any time before we had Joel, like Okafor or any of those guys that were obviously high-point scorers?
No, I mean, the Sixers all-stars are going to be a lot of the recent guys.
Yeah.
Embiid, Maxey, Ben, like you said,
Harden, right? Yeah, okay.
I mean, I guess if it has to be with the team, Paul George won't count. If it doesn't, Paul George is obviously there. I mean, Iverson. Did he ever get an All-Star appearance with us? I'm trying to remember. Like he was in the dunk contest, right? Obviously.
Yeah, he was in the dunk contest. I
feel like his All-Star appearance. Well, actually, you know what? I think you're right. I'm trying to remember if this was Denver or not, but I do feel like I vaguely remember him playing in an All-Star game now with us.
Should we go Iggy and just see what happens?
Yeah, because everybody else is chalky. Like Moses is chalky, Dr. J is chalky, Barkley's chalky.
All right, fingers crossed. This one's dangerous. Yes, he was. Okay. All right. And so then LaMarcus Aldridge for Pacers Trailblazers All-Star, I believe. I'm just assuming.
Yeah, Trailblazers All-Star, there's a bunch. You got, I mean, Dame is the obvious one recently. In the past, you've got Clyde Drexler is obvious. Bill Walton is obvious. Say it again?
CJ McCollum? Do you think he ever got it?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like he did at least once. I think CJ would be there.
CJ would be lower than all those in my opinion right now.
The other sneaky one, for Portland, because I don't think people associate him with Portland as much. I mean, maybe number 2 after Detroit, Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace was an all-star in Portland.
You want to go Rasheed?
I'd go Sheed.
Oh, why did it go all the way to the bottom?
Yeah,
Rasheed Wallace.
Dirty.
I know, right? 5%. There we go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bucks 20 game per season. I mean, the Giannis is the obvious answer. Ray Allen's is a better answer from back in the day. Kareem is a good one. The two that I mean, one is
Brandon Knight. Do we think he had 20?
Brandon Knight had 20, man.
I almost want to see who else was around that time. Chris Middleton, right? He's at 20.
Chris Middleton is definitely at 20. The other sneaky guy for me that would maybe be at 20 is not Chris Middleton, not Drew, not Ray Allen. Shoot, why did I just lose it? Michael Redd. Michael Redd definitely at 20 a game.
I would be willing to go Redd because I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we've used it a while. Let's do Michael Redd. He was great in the late 2000s, early 2010s. He was awesome. REDD.
Oh, EDD. Okay. The double D, man, they throw me off.
Yeah, they throw a lot of us off sometimes, Just. I hear you. Really. 10 out of 10, or 9 out of 10, or 9 out of 9, I should say. Jeez, oh man. 61, not bad at all. You want to scroll down to our top answers here real quick?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was pulling.
All right, so top answers for each team.
It was Paul O'Neal. Come on.
That's wild, dude. Wow. Really? I mean, wow. Okay. Paul George for Sixers and Pacers, PJ Tucker for Sixers and Bucks, Joel Embiid for Sixers and All-Stars, Tremaine O'Neal for Blazers and Pacers. That genuinely surprises me. Damian Lillard for Bucks and Blazers, Clyde Drexler for Blazers and All-Star, Pacers 20 a game, Reggie Miller, Bucks 20 a game, Giannis, and All-Star 20 a game per season, Michael Jordan. Our answers, if we want to run them back, for Sixers and Pacers, TJ McConnell. For Sixers and Bucks, Glenn Robinson. For Sixers All-Star, Andre Iguodala. For Blazers and Pacers, Evan Turner. For Blazers and Bucks, Myers Leonard. For Blazers All-Star, Rasheed Wallace. For Pacers, 20 game per season, Danny Granger. Bucks, 20 game per season, Michael Redd. And 20 game per season, All-Star, Victor Oladipo. Not bad at all. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes. Good or bad, I'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple listener, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us.
Yep, and we're on YouTube, Driving Dish NBA on YouTube for video version of the podcast. You can subscribe. You'll know when new episodes are coming out that you can watch.